History tells us that the year 117 AD marked the zenith of the Roman Empire. It was the moment the map ceased to expand, stretching from the mists of Britannia to the burning sands of Mesopotamia. Under Emperor Trajan, Rome was not merely a city, it was an inevitability. The iron heel of the Legion seemed destined to crush the throat of the world forever. We look back at the marble columns and the vast aqueducts and see a civilization that believed it was immortal. But immortality is a heavy burden, and civilization is nothing more than a thin layer of ice over a deep, dark ocean. In the winter of that year, the ice began to crack. It did not begin with a roar, but with a silence. The trouble started on the Dacian frontier, in the dense, primitive forests of what we now call Romania. The subjugation of the Dacian tribes had been brutal, a harvest of golden slaves to feed the eternal hunger of the capital. But deep within the Carpathian Mountains, near the jagged edge of the known world, the XIII Legion unearthed something that should have remained buried in the black earth. Dispatches sent back to the provincial governor described a frantic excavation of a barbarian tumulus, a burial mound sealed not with gold, but with heavy chains of meteoric iron. The legionaries, men of discipline and logic, broke the seal in search of plunder. They found only dust and a stagnant copper-scented air that made the torches flicker and die. For 3 weeks, nothing happened. The Pax Romana held, and then, the reports became erratic. Patrols vanished into the tree line and never returned. When they were found days later, they were not dead, yet they were not alive. They stood motionless in the snow, eyes wide and white, stripped of their armor, staring back at the encampments with a hungry intensity. The centurions, hardened veterans who had faced the painted warriors of the north and the cataphracts of the east, were paralyzed by a threat their tactics could not explain. They wrote of a furious madness spreading through the ranks, a furor that did not kill, but hollowed out the man. They spoke of soldiers who ignored severed limbs, who did not bleed when cut, and whose only vocalization was the grinding of teeth. Rome, in its hubris, dismissed these dispatches as the ravings of fatigue or localized fever. They believed the greatest threat to the empire was a barbarian uprising or a political assassination. They did not understand that the true enemy was already inside the gates, carried in the veins of the very wounded soldiers sent home to recover. The first omen was not a comet in the sky. It was the shallow, rattling breath of a single legionary lying in a field hospital on the outskirts of Rome. Patient 0. The sunrise over the 7 hills on the Ides of March was not greeted with prayers to Jupiter, but with a cacophony of terror that rose from the military sanitarium on the Celian Hill. Patient 0 did not simply expire. The transformation was violent, a physiological mutiny where the host's motor functions were hijacked by the pathogen. The attending physician, a Greek surgeon of renown, was the first casualty. His throat was torn out not with malice, but with the mechanical efficiency of a predator devouring prey. Within the hour, the sanitarium was a slaughterhouse. The infection did not travel by miasma or bad air, as the priests claimed. It traveled by fluid, by bite, by the violent projection of infected blood into the eyes and mouths of the screaming orderlies. By noon, the contagion had spilled into the Subura, the teeming, claustrophobic slums where the empire stored its poor. In these narrow, excrement-slicked alleys, the infection rate was vertical. The Roman populace, conditioned to fear fire and famine, had no frame of reference for this. They barred their doors, believing it to be a riot or a slave revolt. But doors are wood, and the infected possessed a hysterical strength, driving their broken limbs through the timber to reach the warmth inside. The urban cohorts were deployed, the police force of the ancient world. They marched into the forum with the discipline that had conquered nations. They formed the phalanx, shields locked, pila leveled, a wall of iron designed to break the charge of disorganized barbarians. But the enemy was not a barbarian. It was their wives, their children, their bakers, their priests. When the horde collided with the shield wall, the geometry of Roman warfare collapsed. The infected did not retreat from the spear tips. They impaled themselves, driving their bodies up the shafts of the pila to weigh down the shields, their snapping jaws inches from the faces of the legionaries. The gladius, the short sword that conquered the Mediterranean, is a weapon of precision, designed for the thrust, but against a swarm that feels no pain, that fights with missing intestines and shattered femurs. Precision is useless. The discipline of the cohort shattered. The Testudo formation, designed to deflect arrows, became a coffin. As the lines broke, the screaming began not of victory, but of a primal, devastating realization that the gods had abandoned Rome. The golden eagle of the standard fell into the mud, trampled by feet that no longer remembered how to walk, only how to run toward the sound of a beating heart. 5 years after the breach of the Celian Hill, The concept of Rome had ceased to be a political entity and became merely a geographic reference for a tomb. The Italian peninsula, once the garden of the empire, had undergone a rapid and grotesque ecological regression. With the aqueducts shattered by desperate engineers trying to deny water to the infected, the great fountains of the capital ran dry. The Tiber River, choked with the silting bodies of 300,000 citizens, stagnated into a black, gelatinous marsh that bred mosquitoes the size of hornets. The sun beat down on a silent city where the white marble was now stained with the brown patina of dried oxidation. The survivors did not flee to the provinces. The roads were the first arteries to clot. Instead, humanity retracted into verticality. The remnants of the Praetorian Guard and the wealthiest patricians barricaded themselves inside the mausoleum of Hadriana, fortress of Cylinder. Stone meant for the dead, now holding the last desperate breaths of the living. They survived not by agriculture, for the fields were killing grounds, but by a strict, grim cannibalism. The grain shipments from Egypt had stopped years ago. Now, the lottery determined who would be eaten to sustain the cohort. They stripped the gold from the temples, not for greed, but to melt down into arrowheads. Discovering that soft metals deformed too easily against the ossified bone density of the swarm, the horror itself had evolved. The initial furious madness had cooled into a hive-like dormancy. The infected, stripped of fat and fluid, did not rot in the traditional sense. The Mediterranean heat baked them into leather and sinew. During the day, they stood motionless in the shadows of the Colosseum and the Senate House, huddled together in the thousands, mimicking the statues of the gods they had replaced. They entered a state of estivation, conserving energy, indistinguishable from the ruins around them. But when the sun dipped below the horizon, the city woke up. The clicking of dry joints echoed off the 7 hills. The Hollow, as the survivors called them, displayed a rudimentary, terrifying intelligence. They no longer threw themselves mindlessly at walls. They waited, they seeped. They learned that the living needed water, and they clustered around the few remaining cisterns, silent sentinels in the dark. The legionaries watching from the high parapets of the mausoleum realized with a dawn-breaking dread that they were no longer the apex predators of Latium. They were merely cattle in a pen, waiting for the butcher to find the key. 2 centuries have passed since the fall. The calendar of the Caesars has been abandoned, replaced by the era of silence. The map of Europe is no longer defined by borders or provinces, but by the density of the necropolis. The Italian peninsula has become a forbidden zone, a geographic abscess avoided by the few remaining pockets of humanity. The great stone roads that once connected the world now serve as arteries for the migration of the horde, overgrown with gray, calcified lichen that feeds on marrow. The ecology of the continent has been fundamentally rewritten. The infected did not die out, they calcified. The hollow Benshi ceased their individual wanderings and congregated in the massive stone structures of the old cities. Fusing together in a grotesque parody of societal cohesion, the Colosseum is no longer an arena. It is a hive. Thousands of desiccated bodies have pressed together, their flesh merging under the pressure of centuries, creating a single, massive organism that lines the amphitheater like a coral reef of human teeth and bone. They are dormant, statues of leather and hate, waiting for the vibration of a footstep to trigger a cascade of awakening. Humanity has not gone extinct, but it has been forced into a regression so severe it resembles the Stone Age. The survivors dwell on the fringes, the high peaks of the Swiss Alps, the isolated islands of the Hebrides, and the frozen fjords of Scandinavia. They have forgotten the art of forging steel, for the sound of a hammer on an anvil travels too far. They have become the silent ones. Their culture revolves entirely around noise discipline. Children are taught from birth to stifle their cries. Those who cannot are smothered by their own mothers to save the tribe. Religion has mutated to match this hellscape. The remnants of Christianity and paganism have fused into the cult of the mute god. They believe that speech is a sin, and that the hollow are the divine punishers sent to consume the noisy. Priests wear masks made from the flayed skin of the infected to mask their scent. Venturing into the necropolis not to fight, but to scavenge iron scraps from the ruins of Rome, they move like ghosts, communicating only in sign language, terrified of waking the sleepers. The plague did not stop at the Atlantic or the Urals. Drifting ghost ships, carried by currents, crashed onto the shores of Carthage and Alexandria, unleashing the horror into Africa. The Silk Road became a conduit of death, carrying the pathogen to the Han Dynasty in China, which built the Great Wall not to keep barbarians out, but to keep the infected in. The world has been compartmentalized, a series of dying lights separated by vast oceans of darkness, where the only law is silence, and the penalty for breaking it is to be consumed. And so we arrive at the present day. The year is nominally 2025, but such a number holds no meaning in a world that stopped counting 19 centuries ago. If you were to look down from the heavens, you would not see the glowing spiderwebs of electrified cities. There are no satellites drifting in the void, no radio waves piercing the atmosphere. The Earth is silent. The night side of the planet is pitch black, save for the occasional orange flicker of a primitive campfire or the blue, bioluminescent glow of the fungal blooms that now cover the necropolis. In this timeline, the island of Manhattan is not a canyon of steel and glass. It remains as it was in the beginning, a dense, marshy woodland of oak and chestnut, shrouded in mist, where the only sound is the wind howling through the trees. The American continents are a pristine wilderness, perhaps the last sanctuary of uninfected humanity, or perhaps a silent graveyard where the drift ships of the dead eventually ran aground. We do not know. The Atlantic Ocean became a barrier of death that no sailor dared to cross. In the old world, the horror has become geological. The hollow are no longer individual monsters. They are the landscape. In the valleys of France and the plains of Germany, the infected have clustered into mounds the size of hills, fused together by time and pressure. Nature has grown over them. Forests have taken root on top of these mountains of bone. To the primitive humans who hunt in their shadows, these are not monsters, they are the sleeping gods. These tribes possess no written language, no memory of Rome, and no concept of the future. They know only one law: do not wake the mountain. We build our civilizations on the assumption that we are the inevitable masters of this planet. We believe our concrete is eternal, and our internet is omnipresent. But in this reality, the Roman eagle fell, and with it, the entire trajectory of our species. We are not the protagonists of history. We are merely a temporary infection on the surface of a much older, darker world. If you have the stomach to explore more timelines where humanity is erased from existence, subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. The engine is running, the simulation is resetting, and the next nightmare is already waiting in the dark.